From our free daily newsletter, the latest from podnews.net with Spots Now. The British Podcast Awards 2026 released its long list, recognising 409 entrants across 27 categories. Almost half the long list are claimed to be independent titles and talent. We see at least 53 nominations for the BBC, 11 for Audible, 8 for Audio Always, Platform Media and Bauer Media. One notable indie who has a nomination, the 19-year-old Answer Me This. Goalhanger, the UK's largest independent podcast company, did not enter. Global also appears to have not put their shows forward. The British Podcast Awards have announced that the final round of the Listener's Choice Award, the listener-voted prize in the competition, will be chosen using the Spotify platform. After an open vote on the British Podcast Award website, the top 20 will move forward to a vote that requires listeners to use Spotify to make their final vote. Any podcast currently available on Spotify is eligible for nomination, they say. The award last year went to history podcast Betwixt the Sheets, and the awards are celebrating their 10th year this year. The Crossed Wires Podcast Festival has been taking place in Sheffield in England. We'll have a full roundup of that tomorrow. If you're watching this because you want to make stuff, just go and make stuff. That's the only way to get better. That's advice from Tom Scott, a well-known YouTuber and podcaster who gives some incredible advice in a YouTube video that we link to today. Much of it works if you ignore the word YouTube and you replace it with the word podcast. Podcasts made it to another streaming video platform earlier this year, this time in New Zealand. For the last few months, TVNZ Plus has carried 6 video podcasts from indie producer Frank, including Between Two Beers and Extremely Casual Gamers. And fancy taking your show to the next level? Mercury Podcast is looking for new shows and is planning to give one podcast a free 4-hour session in a studio in the Bahamas. And thank you to Psycom Media for becoming our latest gold supporter, the company behind some of the biggest podcasts like Huberman Lab, David Senra and Perform with Dr. Andy Galpin. They've been supporters since 2023 and they help pay for Pod News for everyone. You can support us too at podnews.net/support. It's a Monday, so time for some tech stuff with thanks to rss.com. Follow people, not shows, says Guest Vine, a tool that lets you follow any person and every podcast they guest on. You get the results in a private RSS feed in your existing podcast app or via email if you want that too. We'll link to an example of Seth Godin and another example for anybody to do with football. Yay, go football. There's been a significant drop in new episodes published on Spotify for creators, according to Livewire. The podcast host only published 19.8% of all new episodes in June. That's the lowest figure ever, at least since the data was first compiled in 2021. Our section sponsor, rss.com, remains on its best ever figures. And podcasting is still vulnerable to the Amazon apocalypse. Almost 60% of all podcast episodes are released using Amazon's CloudFront, including this one. And in podcast news, with Airwave and Twit TV, This Week in Tech is the top-ranked flagship tech podcast with Leo Laporte and friends this week. Good news for digital privacy, thanks to the Supreme Court, and BYD sells the most EV cars again. They're with Airwave, and we thank them for their support this month. A 3-part fiction series in Spanish, Red Hot Chili Dinos, launched last month. It's produced by one independent creator, June Curiel, and AI was used right through the production process, from script writing and music to voice direction, sound design and post-production, with human creative direction at every stage. She tells us that this might be a glimpse of what independent podcast production may look like over the next few years. And Rebecca Dolby, the VP of Demand at Triton Digital, says the most successful ways that she's seen podcasters making money is to adapt to a layered monetization strategy. She speaks in Podbiz this week, sharing how creators can maximize their earnings by adopting a layered monetization strategy, outlining the strategic alignment behind the Spreaker and Triton merger, and offers practical advice on shifting metrics from rigid CPMs to total revenue yield. And this podcast is sponsored by Spots Now. You can get Spots Now's Claude and ChatGPT connector to trial for free. If you're quick, you can ask your AI anything about podcast advertising in plain language right inside Claude or ChatGPT. It's designed from the ground up for podcast advertising workflows and strategic sales and buying questions to give you a competitive advantage. Now, you won't be able to use Spots Now free after July the 22nd, so you want to start using it today. So if you're curious about how the latest AI can work for your business, you can connect for free while you can in just 60 seconds at spotsnow.io/intelligence, or click on the link you'll find in our show notes. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe for free, we're at podnews.net.